Sarah never imagined that covering a $27.83 grocery bill for an elderly man would cost her the job she needed. As a single mother of two, she watched her manager's lips form "terminated" while tears filled her eyes. 2 weeks later, with bills mounting and hope fading, her phone rang with an unfamiliar number. The voice on the other end would change everything she knew about kindness. The fluorescent lights of Central Grocers cast a harsh glow over Sarah Miller's register as she scanned items with practiced efficiency. For nearly 3 years, those same lights had illuminated her days, watching as her life unfolded in 8-hour shifts. As a single mother of 2 young children, Sarah had become a master of stretching dollars and minutes alike, making just enough to keep her small family afloat. Despite the constant pressure of bills and responsibilities, Sarah's warmth never faltered. In a workplace where burnout was common, her kindness had become something of a legend among both staff and regular customers. That rainy Tuesday afternoon seemed like any other at first. The store was relatively quiet, with just a few customers wandering the aisles, seeking shelter from the downpour as much as the groceries on the display counters. Sarah glanced up just as an elderly man entered. Water dripped from his coat as he carefully wiped his feet. Though his clothes were clean, they carried the worn look of garments that had seen many years of use. Sarah noticed how his hands trembled slightly while selecting items from the shelves. The old man moved methodically, picking up only the essentials: a loaf of bread, some cheese, milk, and a few canned goods. Sarah observed how he checked the price tag carefully before selecting. Under his breath, he kept a running tally, occasionally putting something back after reconsidering. When he finally approached her register, Sarah greeted him with the same warm smile she offered everyone. The man nodded politely as she began scanning his modest collection of groceries. The final beep of the scanner was followed by the total flashing on the screen: $27.83. The effect on the elderly man was immediate. His face fell as he reached into his pocket, then another, his movements becoming increasingly frantic. The color drained from his face. He had left his wallet at home. His eyes, magnified by thick glasses, darted nervously to the growing line behind him. His voice quavered as he explained his situation to Sarah, embarrassment evident in every word. Sarah glanced nervously around the store. Several other cashiers were busy with their own customers, and the customer service desk was momentarily unmanned. The store policy was clear: no exceptions, no special treatment. Employees were strictly forbidden from paying for customers. Despite knowing about all the existing rules, Sarah saw more than just an elderly man who had forgotten his wallet. She saw someone's grandfather, perhaps alone and struggling with the small indignities that age brings. Without hesitation, she reached into her purse and pulled out her own debit card. The amount was significant to Sarah, nearly half of what she had budgeted for her children's school supplies that week. But the relief in the old man's eyes made the sacrifice seem small. When he tried to protest, Sarah simply told him that everyone needs help sometimes. After the man left, Sarah quickly entered a void code in the system, something reserved for damaged items or scanning errors. She pushed away the twinge of guilt, focusing instead on helping the next customer. The following morning, Sarah arrived at work to find a note requesting her immediate presence in the manager's office. Her stomach dropped and her heart raced as she dragged her feet to the manager's office. In her 3 years at Central Grocers, she had never been called in for disciplinary reasons. Mr. Peterson sat stiffly behind his desk, his expression unreadable. Next to him was Ms. Rivera from Loss Prevention, her tablet displaying security footage of Sarah's register from the previous day. The evidence was undeniable: Sarah paying for the elderly man's groceries and then entering a void code. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, her eyes wide open as she tried to explain her actions. With Mr. Peterson and Ms. Rivera eyes poking holes into her body, she explained that it was the old man's distress that prompted her actions. But Mr. Peterson's expression remained unmoved. When she finished, he folded his hands on the desk and began reciting company policy in a flat tone. The words that followed hit Sarah like physical blows: violation of policy, trust broken, immediate termination. She watched Mr. Peterson's mouth form these words as if in slow motion, her mind racing to calculate how long her meager savings would last. As she cleared out her locker, Sarah's co-workers watched in shocked silence. The same people who had admired her kindness for years now averted their eyes, afraid that association with her might jeopardize their own positions. The following days blurred together in a haze of online job applications and increasingly desperate phone calls. Each evening, Sarah sat at her small kitchen table after her children were asleep, sorting through bills and calculating how much time she had before disaster struck. 2 weeks after losing her job, Sarah's refrigerator was nearly empty, her pantry was empty too, and the rent was past due. As she sat staring at the final notice from the electric company, her phone rang. The screen displayed an unknown number. Necessity won out, and she answered. The voice identified himself as William Harper, requesting a meeting at a downtown office building the following morning. The name meant nothing to Sarah, but at this point, any opportunity was worth pursuing. The next day, Sarah arrived wearing her only interview-appropriate outfit. The building was intimidating, a gleaming tower of glass and steel housing some of the city's most prestigious companies. In the lobby, a receptionist directed her to the executive offices on the top floor. Sarah's confusion deepened with each ascending floor. What could a company like this possibly want with a former grocery store cashier? When the elevator doors opened, Sarah was greeted by an executive assistant who led her to a conference room. She sat through what appeared to be a job interview for a community outreach coordinator, knowing she had never applied for such a role. After an hour of perplexing questions, Sarah finally asked how she had even been considered for such a position. The assistant smiled and excused himself. Moments later, the door opened, and Sarah gasped. Walking into the room was the elderly man from the grocery store. But instead of worn clothes and trembling hands, he stood tall in an impeccable suit, his posture confident and commanding. The mystery unraveled as William Harper, founder and CEO of Harper Investments, sat across from her. He explained that he hadn't actually forgotten his wallet that day. For months, William had been visiting local businesses incognito, observing how employees treated vulnerable customers. As he prepared to launch a community investment initiative, he wanted to understand firsthand the character of people in his city. Sarah's act of kindness had affected him deeply. Not only had she sacrificed her limited resources, but she had preserved his dignity. When he learned she had been fired for helping him, his determination to find her increased. What William offered next left Sarah speechless. The position she was just interviewed for, with a salary that would forever change her family's situation. He saw in her the exact qualities needed: genuine compassion, courage, and understanding of real struggles faced by community members. But William's plan extended beyond just helping Sarah. He explained his vision for the Harper Community Compassion Fund, a program designed to recognize and support individuals with admirable qualities like hers who are being mistreated in their community, with a primary focus on employees who are poorly treated but demonstrate extraordinary kindness, especially when that kindness comes at a personal cost. The reality hit Sarah all at once. Tears streamed down her face as weeks of stress gave way to overwhelming relief. These weren't the desperate tears she'd shed when losing her job, but tears of joy, of vindication, of hope restored. In a strange twist of fate, Sarah's lowest moment had become the foundation for her greatest purpose. She now sat at the center of the Harper Community Compassion Fund, helping build a community where compassion is celebrated rather than punished. Her simple decision to help someone in need had rippled outward, touching lives she would never even know. And through it all, she remained the same Sarah, still kind, genuine, but now with the resources and platform to spread that kindness far beyond a single grocery store register. What would you do if faced with Sarah's initial dilemma? Would you risk your job to help someone in need, or follow company policy to protect yourself?